scourge of tanking is something that I think is not as forefront on the minds of the NBA as fans probably want it to be. Tim Bontemps and Kevin Pelton have an article on ESPN right now that dives very heavily into this. We mentioned on the show the other day, was it Thursday or Friday, the fix that I have heard that I think is the best, which is the assigning of lottery points. Basically, teams that are tanking get points for each win they get against teams above them in the standings. So so even though you keep the lottery odds the same, but this makes it so when Washington and Utah play, it's more valuable to win. Therefore, your players play. That's the name of the game, playing basketball.
Right.
And that's from Keith. He does the Grit and Grinds podcast for the Memphis Grizzlies. Fast Break Breakfast. Great dude. And it's a great idea. He came up with this, I want to say, like 3 years ago. And it's an idea that actually does pop up in this article. These are the solutions that have been discussed amongst these are various executives in the league that are anonymous, but knowing Bontemps and Pelton, they're very highly placed sources. One of them is to flatten the lottery odds even more, which is what we got away from because the Orlando Magic were a 500 team that won the lottery and got Shaquille O'Neal.
Right.
You don't want the Boston Celtics getting Cooper Flag. It's not good for the league.
Might be good for the Boston fans. It's like Bill Simmons just called in.
Yeah, you don't want the Thunder getting Cooper Flag.
Right.
That is a terrifying proposition and not good for the league. The NBA is still trying to do what the NFL has done, which is get more parity in the league, more cyclical, so you have different title winners, because you've got the Lakers and the Celtics who both have 18 titles. And if you flatten the lottery odds and you make it to where good teams can get these great players by luck of the draw, it's a problem, because then the bottom teams are going to continue to be at the bottom, because there are natural disadvantages in the NBA that are not there necessarily in the NFL. Small markets in the NFL have been successful for a very, very, very long time. Green Bay Packers.
Right.
Pittsburgh is not this massive market. Like, you don't have to be New York.
Smaller than Portland, I believe.
You do not have to be New York, LA, Dallas, Chicago to be successful in the NFL.
To be fair to the NFL, one player doesn't make as big of a difference.
Yes.
Like in the NBA,
if one player can.
Right. If one player comes to a team, I mean, look at LeBron for the beginning part of his career. If LeBron goes to a team, they instantly become relevant. I mean, he's literally won a title in every organization he's been a part of, right? Like, shoot. I know Paolo wasn't on your list of guys who, projected as being an NBA Hall of Famer.
He's on the list, but he's literally at the bottom.
He's not on the top 10, right? The Magic have been light years better since adding him. Like, they had Mo Wagner, who's very good. Adding Paolo was completely different. I mean, Cleveland and adding Donovan Mitchell, Cleveland and adding Kyrie, right? There's lists, Blazers and Dame.
Yes. And it's not necessarily just number one overall picks, because there's the Jokic's, the Giannis's, the Draymond Greens, guys that are, either end of lottery in Giannis or second round picks in Jokic and Draymond Green that are, Davidson with Steph Curry, small school guy. It was like, I don't know. His ankles are broken, and then all of a sudden they're magically healed, and now he's great. And Klay Thompson's the 11th overall pick. It doesn't necessarily have to be the first.
Was Steph not even their first point guard taken in that draft?
No, there's 3 point guards taken in front of him, and 2 of them went to Minnesota.
That's what it was. I was like, there was a team that took 2 point guards in
Johnny Flynn.
Dude, I thought he was going to be so good. I loved him at Syracuse.
Yeah,
he had the headband. He was cool.
Look, man,
I'm bummed.
There have been 2 players that have come out of Syracuse recently that have done more than expected.
Yeah.
Carmelo Anthony and Jeremy Grant.
Fair.
Michael Carter Williams, rookie of the year notwithstanding. It's kind of how it goes. But we've kind of already gone through some of the other changes, but one of the ones that I love on here is, how about you just enforce the current rules? The line here is, some people around the league believe the current system is fine, bad teams exist, and fighting for lottery positioning is just part of the sport. But with the onset of teams trying to sink to the bottom of the standings, some sources argued that cutting down on the influx of teams sitting healthy players would fix many of the current complaints rather than tweaking the system any further. How about we just start there? make it to where it's impossible for these guys to rest these stars. And you just are naturally what you are.
Mm-hmm. How do you enforce that, though?
Find the living hell out of them.
Yeah, but so playing devil's advocate.
But yes, it's
playing
the medical stuff.
advocate.
Oh, he's not healthy. Prove that he's not healthy.
Where does that come in line with? So then, because if you come into that where you are saying, hey, you have to prove that he's not healthy, that can drastically affect injury reports. You can't lie on those anymore. I mean, I know the NBA, there's not necessarily lying, but there's not complete truth telling. The NHL is the biggest offender of this. Can you truly enforce that? Or can, a medical staff member just go, hey, it's a 2-week injury. And now you don't get him for 2 weeks, but he gets the 2 weeks off that he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you able to do that? That now, does the team come in and fine him or fine the organization? Because that player is out and they are out for a legit reason. They have the legit injury. Instead of making it 1 to 2, they've just said, no, you're going to take the full 2.
The whole...
How do you come down on them for that?
It's got to... There's no clear-cut answer. But the soft tanking stuff, like we've seen from the Wizards and the Raptors and the Jazz, it's just nasty work.
Right, because you're right. Tanking has to stop.
I've said flat out, if you're just going to do it, say it with your chest. And look, the Blazers did it when they had John
the 76ers did it.
Yeah, I mean, they
trust the process.
Well, that's why this stuff is the lottery odds got changed in 2019 because of the hinky 76ers.
Right.
That's why they flattened the odds a little bit, was to take some of that stuff away,
right,
and not make it so nasty.
And I think Russillo has a good point on this though, because he talks about it all the time. Where Hinkie straight up said, how many times have we said, hey, I wish you'd just be honest. Be honest, be honest, be honest. I've said it, you've said it, everyone has said it.
Say it with your chest.
Be honest. And Hinkie was like, I am going to tank. I am going to bring players in that are too old or not good enough. And I am going to make sure that I get all these top picks. Mm-hmm. And as soon as he did that, it was, wow, I can't believe he's doing this. He outright said it. How dare he? He's trashing the game. He's changing the game. This is garbage. And then the craziest thing of all, it didn't work.
Well, it doesn't.
You didn't
guarantee,
get to an Eastern Conference finals.
It doesn't guarantee success because you still have to draft the right players. So
fair.
We'll wrap this up here. Over the last 45 years, 5 title-winning teams weren't led by a player who would win or had won the NBA's MVP award. Last year's Celtics, which as great as Tatum is, I don't think he's ever going to elevate to winning an MVP. I could be wrong there, but I think that's where it's going to go. The 2019 Raptors with Kawhi, which you could very easily argue he was the best player on the planet for 3 months. And then the Detroit Pistons at 89, 90, and 04. Among the remaining 40 teams, you take those 5 out of the 45. Mm-hmm. One of the following 14 players was a member of at least one of those title teams. Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Julius Erving, Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal, Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett, Dirk Nowitzki, LeBron James, Steph Curry, Giannis Antetokounmpo, or Nikola Jokic. 5 of those 14 players, Magic, Olajuwon, Shaq, Duncan, and LeBron, were taken first overall. Only 4, Kobe, Dirk, Giannis, Jokic, were picked outside of the top 7 spots. One singular player, to your point, changes anything more in the NBA than any other sport.
Yep.
Baseball, hockey, NFL. Because it's played with 5 players at a time on each side, one player and their individual greatness sets it apart, which is why there's teams that when they look at a draft and they see a Cooper Flag and they run their own numbers on it and they see this guy has the potential to be an all-NBA and all-time great. They see a Victor Wembanyama and they go, this guy has the potential to be an all-time great. Mm-hmm. A franchise-defining player. That they do that. But as I said earlier, the analytics guy in me gets this, understands it. I have campaigned for it. But we have got to get to a point where the actual games matter every night.
And people are playing. Because
that's the name of the game.
It's why we had the conversation in hour 2. It's why the younger generation, myself included in
Tune
this,
out.
Have started to go back to college basketball. Because
the games matter.
The games matter. Everyone's going to play. And because of NIL, most of those guys who 5 years ago, 6 years ago, hey, I'm good enough, I'm going to get, even though I'm a day 2 draft.
I'm a scratch and claw because I'm going to go get that money.
Right. They're all staying there. Zakai Ziegler is staying at Tennessee, right? You go down the list. Alex Caravan
Came
turned
back
down the
last
NBA.
year. He was a
to stay.
fringe first-round pick last year, and I've got him basically in the same spot. But I heard he got quite a bit to go back to UConn.
He stayed, right? Like you go down the list. Kentucky's point guard, name escapes me right now.
Butler,
Thank you.
the San Diego State transfer.
He's been awesome.
Yeah.
He was awesome at San Diego State. He's
that's
awesome
why
there.
That's why Kentucky is where they are with Pope
Right.
and bringing in a bunch of fourth and fifth year guys.
Janiah Broome.
Yep.
Janiah Broome. You have all these players that are staying and they're playing, and that's why you're seeing a college basketball renaissance. The coaches are fun. The college basketball players are staying.
The product's better because guys are staying and playing.
The games mean more.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the NBA, I have a lot of buddies that are like, now's when I start tuning in.
Yeah.
Because it's almost playoff time.
And that's a problem because there's a big chunk of the schedule you just go, meh, whatever. And if you're going to devalue it even more and say the regular season doesn't matter even more for 5 to 8 teams, almost a third of the league, that's a problem.
Yep.